Hey, welcome back to Unmaking a Mess with Darlene Morgan, where you can find me on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, all titled the same, Unmaking a Mess. And you can definitely find my online blog, Unmaking a Mess. So please look me up. Be sure to share and subscribe and let me know what is on your mind. And also too, so I appreciate you guys hanging in there. I hope you are coming back to listen and watch my videos. I know it's been a while, but you know me, I have to get through one event or some type of different stage in my life before I can resume normal routine. And that means that I have started my job at a local agency, and it has been absolutely wonderful. I love it so much. I cannot wait to wake up in the mornings and go to work. All I've been doing right now is a lot of training, a lot of meetings. So anyway, it's been great to catch you guys up. I'm working as a parent peer support specialist at a local agency here where I'll be working with families that are in crisis from mental health and behaviors of their teen daughters. So anyway, I really have enjoyed every single bit of the training so far, and it's just going great. I just can't thank God enough. Okay, so aside all that, as I've mentioned, Unmaking a Mess is a lot about my trials and experiences and all the messes that I've been in and that I've made myself. And so I'm using all those in hopes that I can find a way to relate to you and let you know that if I can unmake these messes, then so can you. And all things considered, given all the messes that I've been in, I'm still here. So I know that God has a purpose for me, and I know He has one for you as well. I'm definitely going to get right into this post that I wrote. You will find it on my blog, Unmaking a Mess. And so I'm going to get to reading this and get you guys caught up and hopefully be back here in a few days with some more content. And so I definitely appreciate you guys hanging in there. So please sit back, listen. I don't know what else to say, but get to reading here. All right. So this one is called The Cycle. And this comes from a situation as my daughter was here at home the other day with her boyfriend, and they had gotten into this discussion about AI of all things. And it was a great discussion, not gonna lie. I mean, they each had some great, valid points of view. But it just kind of started this kind of anxious feeling in me that made me realize later that, you know, trauma can go both ways. It can go to the point where a child experiences it while they're growing up, and then later on things trigger it. But for me, it made me realize something that I had gone through before with their dad, and now it was surfacing again, and that just did not resonate with me. I just could not believe that I was feeling something and that was reoccurring as I listened to them. But anyway, all right, take a listen. I'll let you know as we go along here, and you'll see what I mean. The Cycle. My glasses keep getting dirty. Okay, let me clean these real quick so I could see what I'm doing. Okay, better. The Cycle. I realized something the other day as I listened to my daughter and her boyfriend go head to head on a discussion about AI. Yeah, it was a very ridiculous, analytical, intelligent discussion as she described it. What I come to know is past trauma of recalling arguments with her dad remains in me. I fear those coming back to haunt us. How? I'll explain. As I listened to her and her boyfriend, there was this distinct sound that I recalled very vividly. It was the sound of my voice insisting the argument continue until he saw things my way. Or in this case, until her boyfriend saw things her way. The only problem was, in this case, that was not going to happen because her boyfriend is a business major and can really put up a good debate. Not that debates weren't valid in my marriage, nor uneven. It's just that it began to make me feel uneasy. Sorry. It's just that the only thing that began to make me feel uneasy was listening to my girl argue with the passion of resolution and righteousness over something that was not worth fighting for. I remember many arguments like that with their dad. I would throw my college education and past experience of working within the justice framework and advocacy into our heated talks until he would let it go. It was too much for him, and he was right to let it go. Not out of weakness, but out of exhaustion in realizing I was not going to back down. Now, this tactic might be great in a courtroom or on the steps of a Capitol, standing up for something you strongly believe in, but not in the middle of a relationship, let alone a marriage. As I listened to these two young adults, I began to have this anxious feeling in my heart and gut that made me feel as if I didn't step in and say something, the relationship would not survive, and I didn't want that for them. It was like reliving the past trauma of all those fights I had in my marriage and seeing those fights increase and eventually cause a division among us that could not be repaired. And many of those fights that I had with their dad were pointless. It was called pride. Too much pride made neither of us want to back down. Although their dad wouldn't argue back, it only made him not want to talk or be around me at all. And eventually, those feelings were mutual. If he couldn't debate me as I wished, I didn't want to be around him either. It was a horrible situation for us that should have never happened. As I listened to my daughter state her case for how AI is misused by society, I heard a young woman who has a strong need for justice to be resolved in pretty much any subject. Her stance had many great points, but so did her boyfriend, as he explained his opposition and how AI can be beneficial. I'm getting a bit off subject here, but what I'm trying to say is these two young adults both had valid arguments, both which I attempted to try and tell my girl that perhaps she needed to go easy and realize his opinions were not as completely as ridiculous as she thought. I wanted her to soften her approach and give her boyfriend credit. I wanted her to say something like, "Yeah, you're right," or "That's a good point," or the typical, "Let's agree to disagree." I wanted her to do something I wasn't capable of and something I never did do. But her stubbornness was not backing down, which was much like how I managed. At that moment, I felt she had learned those strong debate skills from me. She also subconsciously learned how not to regress, and that bothered me. All too often, I wanted to shut my mouth and stop trying to prove my point during my arguments or our arguments with her dad. But pride got in the way of my values and it ruined me, and it broke my marriage. I take blame for my actions. My husband is not here to take a stand on his part, but I can tell you he did the same. He allowed his idea of being the male in the family who should not back down get in the way of doing what was right for both of us. We both failed. And that was something that came over me as I listened to these two young adults. To me, that was the part of the past trauma that I'm not sure people consider. It is obvious that when a child is exposed to their parents arguing, that it can affect them later in life when something similar triggers them and suddenly they are taken back to that memory. But what about the parent who was the one having those arguments and then later hears their child doing the same thing with their partner or spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend? How you as the parent are the one taken back, and you do not want to see the cycle continue, especially after you have learned how to avoid those arguments. That may not make sense to those of you who know my situation. You might be saying, well, of course those arguments can be avoided. There's no spouse anymore to have them with. But those type of arguments and discussions I insisted on were not just with my husband at the time. They were with other people too. And it was with all those other people that I seemed to have to state my case on is what made me simply look like I just wanted to argue and to be right or be heard, to insist on justice, to do everything but back down when I should have. My daughter and her boyfriend reassured me that those debates that happened between them, my daughter and her boyfriend reassured me those debates happened between them and they would not allow those discussions to cause problems. I still worry. I'm a mom. Why wouldn't I? And I pray that those debates do not cause them problems. They told me those discussions helped the other to challenge their mentality. Okay, I can see that, being my daughter is a psychology major and he is a business major. Two different mindsets that will confront the other's intelligence. That made sense to me. That's good, so long as that's where it remains. I guess what I discovered was I still have that regret stashed in my mind, and as a result, it creates a fear in me when I hear my daughters get into arguments with others. I love my daughter. I love that my daughter has this tenacious attribute in her that will stand up for what is right. When corralled appropriately, she is going to move mountains and create change. If we have done some things right as the parent, that is what we want our children to mimic as they grow up. We want to hear people say, wow, she is just like her mama in all the right ways possible. And when I have heard that, it makes me proud and thank God. But I won't hesitate to say, I know where I've gone wrong. If we are the parent who fought those battles with our spouse for truly nothing, and that is what our children are learning, that is not what we want. You can hear a person say, wow, she is just like her mama, and it not be said in the positive manner. That is what we do not wish for our children. So, though I do trust my daughter and her boyfriend to do differently than her dad and I when it came to arguing, I am still the one who recalls how I didn't do it differently. And as a result, I will use my past in a positive way and speak up and tell them, be careful how you argue. Some debates are not worth the time, and just remember to respect the other's opinion. Be okay with saying, you're right. Be okay with saying, that was one heck of a discussion. Let's put it to rest now. Be okay with saying, I'm done arguing. I love you. And hug one another and get back to your movie or whatever it was you were doing before you thought you needed to make a point out of something pointless. So my question to you all is, how difficult is it for you to back down from an argument? Another question: do you and your partner have a way of knowing when to end an argument? What is most effective for you that could be shared in order to help others? Would love to hear what you guys have to say about that, because we all are constantly learning, and I'm constantly learning. Those arguments don't cease to exist just because we learn how to argue better. They're still there. I have them with my daughters. I have them with the other co-owner of the shop. I have them with other people. It's just done differently now. And I think as you get older, you kind of do experience a little more exhaustion and realize how short life is and how much it's not worth to spend your time fighting battles that cannot be won. Hey, thanks all. Really appreciate you hanging there with me. I'm going to be back soon. I'm feeling so good about everything right now. Please, God, let it continue. I pray to God each day that He gets me through. And I hope you are doing the same. Remember to ask God to come into your heart and ask Him to be by your side and guide you. Because with God, it is possible. He will not make those challenges, trials, and everything go away. But with Him, it is easier to go through them. And with that, I am off to spend the evening with my girls. Take care, all. God bless you. Thanks for listening. And I'll be back soon. See ya.